Joe Rogan's studio is no stranger to shocking revelations, but this one caught everyone off guard. In a tense, almost surreal exchange, Rogan leaned into the mic and revealed something no one in the room expected to hear. Candace Owens had allegedly warned Charlie Kirk about his widow. The way Rogan told it, you could feel the oxygen leave the room. He described a private moment, behind the cameras, away from the stage lights, where Owens didn't just whisper friendly advice to Kirk. No, she supposedly gave him a direct warning. A message that wasn't about politics, wasn't about policies, but about something far more personal. Something tied to the memory of Kirk's late wife and the way her story was being used, twisted, or even weaponized in political circles. Rogan, known for pressing guests until the truth cracks open, didn't just drop the detail and move on. He lingered. He emphasized how strange it was that Owens, someone who has clashed with Kirk before, would feel compelled to intervene in something so delicate. Why now? Why her? Why this? The revelation hit the internet like a bomb. Fans clipped the segment within minutes. Rogan leaning forward, eyebrows raised, his voice dropping lower as he described the exchange. The caption, Candace Owens warned Charlie Kirk about his widow. Within hours, the clip was trending. Speculation exploded. What did Owens know? Was this about reputation, secrets, or power? Was she protecting Kirk or protecting herself? And why would Rogan, of all people, bring this to the surface now? The tension in that studio was just the start, because as soon as the story left Rogan's lips, it took on a life of its own, turning whispers into headlines, and headlines into a full-blown controversy that no one involved could walk away from clean. To really understand why Joe Rogan's revelation about Candace Owens and Charlie Kirk's widow hit like a bombshell, you need to look at the strange, tangled relationship between these three figures. Because this wasn't just gossip, it was the collision of egos, alliances, and rivalries that had been brewing for years. Joe Rogan sits at the center of modern media like a storm. With his podcast reaching millions daily, he's built a reputation for pulling secrets out of people, exposing tensions others try to hide, and turning casual conversations into viral controversies. He's not a politician, but his platform is more powerful than most politicians' speeches. When Rogan says something, people listen. And when Rogan reveals something, it sets the internet on fire. Candace Owens, on the other hand, is a warrior in the conservative movement. Fierce, combative, and unapologetic, she's made a career out of picking fights, calling out rivals, and exposing what she sees as hypocrisy, whether it's from the left or even from her own side. Her relationship with Charlie Kirk has always been complicated. They've worked together. They've supported each other publicly. But behind the scenes, insiders have whispered for years about tensions, jealousy over influence, competition for donors, and clashes over strategy. Owens is sharp-tongued and fiery. Kirk is polished and tactical. Together they've been allies, but also rivals. And then there's Charlie Kirk himself. The head of Turning Point USA, he's built his brand on campus debates and free speech battles. But his personal life? That's something he's always kept more guarded, which is why the mention of his widow shocked so many people. The very idea that Owens had to warn him about something tied to his late wife sent fans into a spiral of speculation. Why would Owens even bring up Kirk's widow? What did she know that he didn't? And why would Rogan, of all people, put that information on blast in front of millions? The truth is, Rogan and Owens have clashed before. When Owens appeared on Rogan's podcast in 2018, it became infamous. Rogan grilled her on climate change, pressing her with facts she wasn't prepared to answer. The clip went viral as an example of Rogan dismantling her arguments. It embarrassed Owens, who later admitted she hadn't been ready for the line of questioning. That history between them has always made their interactions tense, an edge of unfinished business hanging in the air whenever her name comes up on Rogan's show. And Charlie Kirk hasn't been spared Rogan's scrutiny either. Rogan has criticized Kirk in the past, calling him performative, questioning his authenticity, and suggesting that much of his activism is about attention rather than substance. He's not a fan. So when Rogan suddenly revealed that Owens had pulled Kirk aside and warned him about his widow, it didn't sound like a casual anecdote. It sounded like a hit. The background makes it even messier. Owens and Kirk's alliance in conservative politics has always looked strong on the surface, but insiders know better. Owens has accused others in the movement of backstabbing and betrayal before. Kirk, for his part, has reportedly bristled at Owens' unpredictability. Add in the fact that conservative politics is filled with whispers, power plays, and internal rivalries, and the idea of Owens warning Kirk about his widow takes on a darker, more calculated meaning. And here's where it gets truly dramatic: the timing. Rogan didn't reveal this during a random episode about pop culture or MMA. He dropped it during a serious discussion about integrity in politics, about who you can trust, and how far people will go to protect themselves. By framing Owens' warning in that context, Rogan was suggesting something sinister: that there were secrets tied to Kirk's late wife, secrets Owens knew, and secrets that could change everything if exposed. The internet immediately split into camps. Some believed Owens was trying to protect Kirk, steering him away from enemies who might use his widow's story against him. Others believed the opposite, that Owens was the one planning to use it, and the warning was more like a veiled threat. And then there were those who focused on Rogan himself, accusing him of stirring the pot, dragging personal pain into the spotlight just for clicks. But whatever the truth, the background is undeniable. Rogan, Owens, and Kirk are three of the loudest voices in conservative media. Their alliances, rivalries, and grudges are already complicated. Throwing the word widow into the mix made the situation combustible. Because this wasn't just about politics anymore. This was personal. The episode was already intense before Rogan even brought up Candace Owens. He was in one of those moods where every question cut deep, every comment had weight. His guest that night had been ranting about the fractures inside the conservative movement, the backstabbing, the egos, the endless jockeying for influence. Rogan leaned back in his chair, narrowed his eyes, and said the line that made everyone in the studio freeze. "You know, Candace Owens once warned Charlie Kirk about his widow, right?" The words dropped like dynamite. The guest blinked, unsure if they had heard him right. Even Jamie, Rogan's longtime producer, looked up from the control board. Rogan repeated it, slow, deliberate, as if savoring the shock value. Yeah, she warned him, straight up, about his widow. And it wasn't just small talk, it was serious. The room went still. You could almost hear the sound of the internet exploding in real time. Clips were being clipped. Tweets were being drafted. TikToks were being queued. The way Rogan said it, calm but heavy, was enough to make people believe there was more beneath the surface. And that's when he laid out the story. According to Rogan, Owens had pulled Kirk aside at a private gathering months earlier. The setting wasn't political, it was personal. But Owens, in her blunt, confrontational way, allegedly told Kirk he needed to watch out for people circling around the story of his widow. Rogan described it as less of a friendly warning and more of a veiled alert, a message that something was brewing, something that could be used against him if he wasn't careful. The guest gasped. "Wait, you're saying she brought up his wife?" Rogan nodded, his tone sharp. "His widow, specifically." And she made it sound like there were people ready to use it as ammo. The implications were staggering. Why would Candace Owens bring this up? What did she know? Was she protecting Kirk? Or planting a seed of fear? And why would Rogan, of all people, drop this revelation so casually, knowing it would explode into controversy? That was the conflict, the collision of three reputations. Kirk, who had tried to keep his personal life separate from his political battles, suddenly had his most private grief dragged into the public square. Owens, already infamous for her brutal honesty and take-no-prisoners style, now looked like either a loyal friend warning him or a schemer hinting at hidden leverage. And Rogan, the man with the microphone, had thrown gasoline on the fire by airing it to millions without context or explanation. The first twist came almost immediately. Within hours of the clip hitting the internet, a supposed insider account on Twitter leaked alleged text messages. In them, someone claiming to be close to Kirk suggested that Owens hadn't been warning him out of kindness. According to these messages, She had told him to be careful what's out there, and that the story could destroy him if it ever leaked. The phrasing was chilling. Fans debated endlessly. Was Owens telling Kirk the truth to protect him, or was she threatening him? Was she the messenger, or the messenger with a dagger? The internet was split. Team Owens argued she had been looking out for him. They pointed to her history of calling out threats and exposing manipulation in politics, saying Candace doesn't hold back. She was protecting Charlie in the only way she knows how, bluntly. Team Kirk supporters weren't so sure. They saw it as intimidation, as if Owens was reminding Kirk that she knew something he didn't. One viral tweet said, "A warning can also be a threat. Don't forget that." And then there was Team Rogan, who accused him of stirring the pot for clout. Why bring up something so personal, so raw, unless he wanted chaos? Critics slammed him for exploiting Kirk's grief and weaponizing Candace's bluntness for ratings. But here's the kicker. The text leak wasn't the only twist. By the end of the week, whispers started spreading across conservative circles that Owens wasn't the only one who had mentioned Kirk's widow behind closed doors. Other figures, unnamed but influential, had allegedly referenced the same story in private conversations. And the rumor was clear. Whatever was tied to Kirk's widow wasn't just personal. It was political ammo. That revelation flipped everything upside down. Suddenly, Owens wasn't just a lone actor giving a strange warning. She might have been one of many people who knew the secret, and one of the only ones bold enough to say it out loud. And that raised the most dangerous question yet. What exactly was the story about Charlie Kirk's widow that people were whispering about? And why was it powerful enough to spark warnings, threats, and whispers of destruction? The room Rogan spoke in that night went silent after his revelation. But the silence outside that studio didn't last. It turned into noise, chaotic, deafening noise, as the internet demanded answers. Kirk stayed quiet. Owens bristled at the speculation, and Rogan just let the storm rage. The clip of Joe Rogan dropping his bomb about Candace Owens and Charlie Kirk's widow didn't just go viral. It detonated. Within hours, the soundbite was everywhere. Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, YouTube. It was clipped, subtitled, remixed with dramatic music, and shared by millions. The caption on one viral post read, "Candace Owens warned Charlie Kirk about his widow. What is going on?" That video alone racked up 10 million views in a single night. Comment sections exploded with wild theories. Did she know a secret? Was this a threat? What did Rogan just unleash? The backlash was immediate and messy. Candace Owens' response. Owens wasted no time addressing the controversy. She posted a fiery Twitter thread, calling the speculation pathetic and slamming Rogan for twisting private conversations into internet gossip. But here's the kicker. She didn't deny it. She admitted she had spoken to Kirk about his widow, but claimed it was out of concern because she had heard whispers that people were trying to exploit the tragedy for political leverage. "Warning a friend isn't a threat," she tweeted. "It's loyalty. Maybe Joe should spend less time spinning drama and more time doing his research." But instead of calming the storm, her response only made it worse. Screenshots of her tweet flooded timelines with captions like, "She admitted it." And critics pointed out that her words, trying to exploit the tragedy, only deepened the mystery. Who was trying to exploit it? What tragedy beyond the obvious? Why did Owens feel the need to insert herself? Charlie Kirk's silence. While Owens raged online, Kirk stayed silent. No tweets, no podcast rants, no public statements. For a man who usually has a response for everything, the silence was deafening, and that silence was interpreted as guilt. Bloggers began asking, was Kirk afraid to address it because Owens knew something damning? Was Rogan exposing a rift that Kirk didn't want the world to see? Conservative gossip pages went into overdrive, claiming insiders had seen Kirk visibly shaken after hearing Owens' warning months ago. Every hour he stayed silent, the rumors grew louder. Rogan stokes the flames. Rogan, for his part, refused to back down. On the very next episode of his podcast, he doubled down. "People think I made it up. I didn't. Candace said what she said. If it wasn't serious, why is everyone freaking out?" His words poured gasoline on the fire. Fans praised him for exposing the truth, while critics accuse him of dragging a widow's name into the mud for views. But either way, the clip ensured the story wouldn't die. It would only escalate. The shocking reveal. Then, the twist no one saw coming hit. An anonymous account dropped what they claimed were leaked emails between two conservative operatives. In them, Kirk's late wife was referenced directly, not just as a personal tragedy, but as part of a narrative being crafted to influence donors and media narratives. The leaked line that sent the internet into meltdown read, "The widow's story could backfire if Owens keeps pressing it. Control the narrative before it controls him." The emails spread like wildfire. Screenshots racked up millions of impressions. Were they real? No one knew. But the timing was brutal, dropping just days after Rogan's revelation, just hours after Owens' fiery tweets, and right in the middle of Kirk's silence. The speculation turned into hysteria. On Twitter, users screamed, "So there is a story behind the widow?" On TikTok, creators made dramatic conspiracy videos, pairing the leaked emails with clips of Rogan and Owens. YouTube pundits dissected every word, every comma, every implication, asking, what are they hiding? The fallout. Mainstream media finally picked it up. CNN framed it as conservative infighting spills into personal attacks. Fox News cautiously covered it, saying Rogan's comments had sparked wild speculation. The Daily Mail went all in with the headline, "Joe Rogan, Candace Owens, and Charlie Kirk caught in explosive feud over widow warning." Even late-night comedians jumped in, mocking the absurdity. Joe Rogan just said Candace Owens warned Charlie Kirk about his widow. At this rate, next week he'll reveal Bigfoot sent a DM to Ben Shapiro. The jokes landed, but the controversy didn't fade. Because underneath the memes and speculation was something darker. A sense that Owens really did know something, that Kirk really was rattled, and that Rogan had opened a door no one could close. The final reveal that week came from Owens herself. Furious at the coverage, she posted an Instagram story with a single line. "If you think I've said too much, you haven't heard anything yet." That cryptic message sent shockwaves. Was she threatening to drop more details about Kirk's widow? Was she daring him to respond? Or was she bluffing, playing the internet like a fiddle? Either way, the silence around Charlie Kirk grew heavier. And the internet, restless and hungry, braced for what might come next. Because if Owens truly had more to say, and if Rogan was willing to amplify it, then this story was nowhere near finished. The moment Joe Rogan's clip hit social media, the internet didn't just react, it combusted. Every side had an opinion, and every opinion came with fury. Candace Owens' admission that she had indeed spoken to Kirk about his widow was gasoline on an already raging fire. The public split. Twitter became a battlefield. Supporters of Candace Owens hailed her as a loyal friend, arguing that she was simply warning Kirk about opportunists trying to weaponize his grief. One viral tweet read, "Candace is the only one brave enough to tell Kirk the truth. Everyone else is pretending." But critics weren't buying it. Another tweet, with over 500K likes, blasted, "A warning can be a threat." If Candace really cared, she wouldn't have put his widow into political conversation in the first place. On TikTok, creators churned out dramatic edits. Owens' face in black and white with captions like, "Was it protection or manipulation?" Side-by-side clips of Rogan's reveal and Owens' defensive tweets racked up millions of views. Instagram Reels turned her cryptic, "You haven't heard anything yet" post into ominous trailers scored with eerie music. Celebrity commentari. Celebrities couldn't resist the spectacle. A famous comedian tweeted, "Rogan turning personal grief into podcast content is peak 2020s media." Meanwhile, a country star defended Rogan, saying, "If it's true, the public deserves to know. Transparency matters, even if it's ugly." Even political figures jumped in. A Democratic congresswoman posted, "This is what happens when personal pain gets turned into clout wars." Shameful. Hours later, a Republican senator clapped back. Candace warned Kirk because she cared. Rogan exposed it because he has no filter. Choose who you trust. The result? More division, more headlines, more speculation. Media frenzy. The media devoured it. The Daily Mail plastered a front-page headline: Joe Rogan reveals explosive rift. Candace Owens' widow warning to Charlie Kirk. Rolling Stone framed it as the latest sign of civil war in conservative media. Fox News cautiously covered it, portraying Owens as a friend caught in a storm. CNN, on the other hand, went all in with the headline, "When Politics Exploits Pain, the Widow Controversy Rocking the Right." Late-night comedians mocked the absurdity. One joked, "Next week Rogan will reveal that Candace Owens warned Kirk about his dry cleaner. Everything's a scandal now." The audience laughed, but the laughter couldn't erase the very real questions the story had raised. Inside conservative circles, behind closed doors, insiders whispered that the feud was tearing at the seams of the conservative movement. Donors reportedly expressed concern. One anonymous strategist was quoted saying, "This isn't about politics anymore. This is personal drama threatening to derail the whole operation." Others insisted the controversy was manufactured, that Rogan had exaggerated a harmless conversation for clicks. But the damage was already done. Once the words "widow" and "warning" hit the internet, they couldn't be taken back. Charlie Kirk's silence, again. And through it all, Charlie Kirk remained silent. His refusal to comment became the story itself. Every hour he stayed quiet, the speculation grew. Was he humiliated? Was he furious at Owens? Or was he terrified that the more Owens hinted, it could actually come to light? Silence became suspicion. Fans begged him to speak. Critics mocked him for hiding. And the longer he held back, the more the storm spiraled out of his control. The cliffhanger reaction. Then came the final jolt. Candace's Instagram story, "If you think I've said too much, you haven't heard anything yet," went viral instantly. The message wasn't subtle. It was a threat, a promise, or both. And it reignited the question that had haunted this scandal from the beginning. What exactly did Candace Owens know? The public begged for answers. Supporters demanded receipts. Opponents feared what might come next. And the media? They circled like vultures, ready to pounce on the next leak, the next cryptic post, the next soundbite from Rogan. Because now this wasn't just about a podcast clip. It was about power, betrayal, and secrets. Secrets tied to grief, legacy, and reputation. And the scariest part? Everyone knew the story wasn't over. By this point, the storm had consumed everything. Rogan's podcast clip, Candace Owens' fiery tweets, Charlie Kirk's deafening silence, the leaked emails, and the endless media frenzy. But just when the internet thought the scandal had peaked, the most shocking twist yet surfaced. Late one evening, an anonymous Telegram channel dropped what it claimed was a recording. The audio, grainy but chilling, captured a woman's voice, allegedly Candace Owens, speaking at a private gathering. In it, she could be heard saying, "I told Charlie, if he doesn't get ahead of this, the widow's story won't just hurt him, it'll bury him. And I'm not going down with him." The audio spread like wildfire. Twitter threads exploded with captions like, "She admitted it was about destruction, not protection." TikToks dissected every syllable of her tone, debating whether it was genuine or manipulated. Some swore it was her. Others claimed it was doctored. But the damage was immediate. Candace Owens was now at the center of a scandal that looked less like a friendly warning and more like a calculated threat. And where was Charlie Kirk? Still silent. Still nowhere to be found. His refusal to respond only deepened the suspicion. Memes mocked him as ghosting the internet, while critics asked, "What is he hiding? Why won't he speak?" Joe Rogan, sensing the chaos, weighed in again, this time cryptically. On his next episode, when a guest brought up the drama, Rogan smirked and said, "All I did was say what I heard. The rest is their mess to clean up." That one line sent chills through fans. Rogan wasn't backing down. He wasn't clarifying. He was standing firm, leaving Owens and Kirk to flail in the firestorm he ignited. And then came Candace's response, the moment that turned this scandal into an all-out war. She posted a black screen on Instagram with just 3 words. "Receipts. Coming. Soon." The internet froze. Was she bluffing? Or was she threatening to expose Charlie Kirk completely? dropping whatever information she had about his widow, his personal life, his vulnerabilities. Supporters cheered her bravery. Critics called it blackmail, but everyone agreed. If she really had receipts, this story was about to explode into something darker than anyone imagined. And that's where the cliffhanger leaves us. A widow's name whispered in private. A warning that sounded more like a threat. Leaked emails, alleged recordings, cryptic posts, and a silence from Kirk that feels heavier by the day. What does Candace Owens really know? What did she mean when she promised receipts? And if she drops them, what will happen to Charlie Kirk, his reputation, and the fragile alliances holding the conservative movement together? The world is waiting. The internet is bracing. And the next reveal could shatter everything. So here we are. One podcast clip, one whispered warning, one widow's name pulled into the spotlight. Joe Rogan didn't just stir the pot. He blew the lid off a secret that Candace Owens has now all but admitted is real. And Charlie Kirk? Silent, watching his allies, his critics, and his supposed friends debate his personal life while he says nothing. But this isn't just a story about three big names. It's a story about power, loyalty, and betrayal. Do you think Candace Owens was protecting Charlie Kirk, warning him out of loyalty, as she claims? Or was she planting a threat, making sure he knew she had leverage over him? Was Joe Rogan exposing the truth? Or was he exploiting private grief for clout? And here's the biggest question. Why is Charlie Kirk staying silent? Is he buying time? Or is he terrified of what Owens might actually reveal if she drops those receipts? Drop your answers in the comments right now. I want to know where you stand. Team Owens, Team Kirk, or Team Rogan? Or do you think they're all playing games, dragging a widow's memory into a power struggle that should have never gone public? And listen, if you've been following every twist, every leak, every cryptic post, then you already know this saga isn't done. Candace has promised receipts. The internet is buzzing about alleged recordings. And Kirk's silence? It won't last forever. At some point, he'll have to speak. And when he does, it could blow this story even wider. So smash that like button if you think the truth is about to drop. Hit subscribe if you want to be here when the next bombshell lands. And turn on notifications, because when those receipts surface, you'll want to see it first.